Lance, and welcome back to I Have a Story. With Trump and all he's doing now, and now he's going into the Department of Education, and we want to do an education reform, it sparked another thought in my mind. We really do need a complete reform of our school, and not just in the finances and the waste and the funding. We actually need to take that money and kind of push it towards more where I'm going with this. Back when school first started, in the days of one-room schoolhouses, back in the heyday, schools were originally started and formed the way that they were in great part because, one, we need to be able to bring the students together, but what school did back then was teach what parents couldn't teach, like reading and writing. Back then, most parents didn't know how to read and write, so we needed a school and a teacher who knew those skills to teach them to our kids. That has really changed in the world today, has it not? But then a big difference in the students back then learned reading, writing, and things that their parents weren't capable of teaching them, but also they still every day learned life skills and worked in the real world, going home, helping their parents, doing whatever the parents did for money, taking care of animals, farming, growing fruits and vegetables, blacksmithing. Children were still involved in that. Not only that, children back then used to bring home dinner. I mean, people go back and listen to the stories that have gotten suppressed over the years and forgotten and lost. Kids used to take a gun to school with them so that they could shoot an animal and bring it home for dinner. They learned life skills and to be adults. I'm not saying that we treat our children like adults and we give our children guns, by no means. But look at the difference in the mindset, mentality, and the change over history. You don't hear about school shootings from back in the days of one-room schoolhouses where kids brought guns to school. But that's not my reform policy, is not to have our kids bringing guns to school, because that's obviously wrong. The reform comes in where we need to change the actual structure of how we're teaching and the mindset of how we teach. If we really want to become the platform that the world idolizes and making changes for our students, not sticking tampons in boys' bathrooms so they can try to figure out which ear they need to plug and listening to all the crap they get fed bleeding out their ears. Maybe that's why Tim did that. That's a pretty good one. Students are bleeding out their ears from what they're being taught today. We do need tampons in the boys' bathroom. Oh, wow. Okay, so back on track here. I'm speaking with experience. I taught first grade at Lark Elementary. I've taught at a couple schools. And in first grade, the first grade teacher there was a lady who was much older, getting close to retirement. I think that's why they gave me the difficult students of first grade, and my class was all of the difficult students of first grade, and then the smartest girl in the entire first grade. I think that was in part because to give her a break and to make it easier on her. And maybe because, hey, I'm fresh and they don't know me, and hey, these kids are failing anyway, so we'll give them the... Okay, but they didn't fail. I want to know how many of you out there felt like this was school, and how many students today and your kids feel like this is what school is.
Sit down and study! Sit down and study! Stop crying and do your schoolwork!
It only affects a very small group of people in their ability to perform. So when I taught first grade, I used to have teachers lined up outside my door watching and then praising me. I've been praised by many schools many times by the way I interact with children and the things that I've done with them. And this was one of them. My classroom was loud because it was a lot of laughing. I knew those students weren't going to be able to sit in a chair and be forced, and you don't smack your students, and you don't make it like a prison. Part of our problem with school is humans aren't meant to just sit on their butt all day and to shut up. But that's how school is structured. I made my class fun and entertaining, but I also made it so that they understood the reasons why they were learning what they were learning the best I could in a classroom. When you sit in a chair and you're just told 2 plus 2 equals 4, and you don't actually get to use that in the real world till later on in life, you're not understanding why you need to know it, the importance of it, the value of it, and therefore it automatically wants to turn off so many brains because they don't, what's the point? I'm using that as a simple example. 5-year-olds, 6-year-olds, 7-year-olds, they have not been exposed to a world where they see the need for it. So here's my reform policy. How about instead of sitting in a classroom reading out of a book, we make schooling life? How about, we have the money, the resources, the space, all of it to make movie sets and stages, and we have amphitheaters and football stadiums and baseball stadiums, and how much money and resources and space is spent solely on entertainment. We're willing to do all that for entertainment, but what can we do for our kids? I know, me personally, I'm terrible with reading a book and understanding what I'm reading. I learn by going out in the world and doing it, and so many people are like that, but yet they're suppressed through the school system because the way they're being taught is not in their mental capacity to learn. It's not how we learn. We learn by hands-on doing, not by scrolling through a book and being told this is what it is. It's a big failure, and where so many smart people fail in school is because we have a baseline of school that if you don't follow this criteria, this curriculum, this walk that we've set on a path for you, that is basically a one guideline system, if you can't conform to that, there's something wrong with you, and people get shunned out. I have met some of the most brilliant people in my life, just like myself, that are nobodies. Different people's stories for that are different, and I'm sharing mine to tell you mine, but there are so many people who don't get noticed that are very intelligent and very skilled because they can't conform to the system set for us. So how about instead of a classroom setting where you're told to sit down and shut up and listen, wouldn't a 5 and a 6-year-old be much better to learn math by, we have 2 rocks and we need 4. Can you go find me 2 more rocks? And have them go find 2 rocks and bring it back. Kids love rocks, and kids love playing in the dirt. It's real world. It's real life. And then we can put these rocks in a circle and start building a foundation and even start teaching building. But without our kids knowing it. We make it entertaining and involving and give them reasons why we're learning this and why it's important all at the same time. We've learned so much about subliminal messaging in our brains that we could use it in our school, but instead we use it for what? People who are God-zillionaires instead use all that knowledge against us to try to get us to spend more money and buy more of their products, and that's the way we go with it? Why don't we use it for good? We have a lot of knowledge. Why aren't we using it? Wouldn't you be more interested in, say, photosynthesis if you were out playing with plants in the real world and learning it and seeing it for yourself? And then we could even bring in math to that. How much chlorophyll is in a chloroplast? Those are pretty big numbers, but just an example. We could really make schooling understandable, entertaining, involving, and understanding why it's all important all at the same time, instead of just flipping through a book and being told you just need to do it. By a teacher who's depressed, standing in a room, who doesn't move. And there's a whole nother aspect to it too. The health aspect of it. We take the American citizen from their time they're 5 years old till they become an adult, 12, 14, 16, even 18 years later. throw them in a desk, throw them in a seat, tell them to sit down, shut up, don't move all day long, and then wonder why they become lazy adults who don't want to move. Well, how about we have a classroom where people are moving and doing stuff and actually living in a real world scenario and being physically involved? That in itself would open up mental health problems that we have, physical health problems that we have, and educational problems that we have all around, and producing a productive workforce at the same time. Look at how much all of this would do. But we can't do it because why? It would cost money, it would cost time. People would have to think and use their brain and actually care more about kids than we do about movies and sports and people who can sing to us. We got the money, the resources, we got the space, the time. Everybody wants to do that stuff, but why aren't we doing it for our kids and our school and the future of our country? I think this would open up a huge breakthrough in making people prosper, people healthy, setting a new platform for the world to see and go, wow, maybe we should do a reform that actually makes sense and do some structural changes to conform to modern life, not keep following the same basis and footsteps of what we did in the past and then just having people find ways to make money off of it. Why is that the basis of our focus, is letting people just take advantage of it and make money off of it? I really had a problem when I got to college and I had to take English. Like, wait, I made it all the way to college. I'm born and raised in America. I spent 30 years here. Why do I need to learn English? I don't. It's just a way for people to make more money and waste more of my time, more of my life. Also, what, I can get a piece of paper that said I know how to speak English? This doesn't make sense to me. I made it all the way to college and I still have to take math classes? Didn't I already learn all the math you could possibly ever need in the world when I went through elementary school, junior high, and college, or in high school? Now I'm in college and you still think I need to learn math? Wow. How much of our college alone even relates or pertains to any degree that people actually end up coming out and getting? Please, people, tell me, how much of your school do you actually remember and use in your everyday life, or how much of it was just fluff that just filled your brain full of space that didn't mean anything? I think this reform in our schools could be really huge all the way around. Again, we've got the money, we've got the resources and the desire to do it to be entertained. Why don't we make reform and put all of that efforts into what would prosper for our children, the future of our country, and the whole world?